process, and all officers that are in attendance here and remotely. I'm sure you all know that this is remotely now, and we will carry on with the planning applications and so on for today. We shouldn't have a long meeting, but that doesn't always go as planned. And I'll take apologies for absence, please.
No apologies received, Chair. I think we have a full house today.
Right, thank you very much for that, Richard, so that's good. And declarations of interest, please. Anyone at all, any members with declarations? If not, please raise your hand and we'll look at it in the chat bar.
As and when, Chair. Thank
you, Councillor Evans. I shall ask for somebody to move the minutes. We're doing them for accuracy only. Has anybody got any issues to raise in the minutes of the last meeting?
Can we take them as read, Chair?
Please.
So I would like someone to move and someone to
please. Chair, yes, please.
Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thank you. It's page 16.
Sorry, I hadn't got a chat bar, so
it's page 16. And
yes.
At the bottom it says the document states that it should say the model standard conditions caravan 2008 document referred to in paragraph 61 states that.
Sorry, the document states that caravans must be spaced at.
Yeah, it's not the original. It's not the document before. It's not the planning circular document. It's paragraph 61 refers to a document that states that, you see. So it should say the model standard conditions for caravans 2008 document referred to in paragraph 61 states that caravans must be spaced. So it's not the circular that states that, it's this other document, but that's referred to in the preceding paragraph 61.
Right, I shall ask Craig, could he give, he's in the chamber with me and he's agreeing with what you've said, so that can be put right in the minutes. Are you happy with that, Councillor Brown?
Yeah, it's just for accuracy, really.
Yeah, that's okay, always accuracy is what we need. Thank you, Councillor Brown. So that will be taken care of. So as you've raised that, anybody else now wishes to move the minutes, please?
Happy to move those, Chair. Matt Feekins.
Right, thank you, Councillor Feekin. Right. So I shall sign all the minutes.
Seconded, Secretary.
I shall sign them at the end of the meeting. So we'll now go to the applications of today, and the first one is that has come back now from the last planning committee, and that is at Lynfoist, and I believe who's giving that? Andrew. Thank you, Andrew.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to make sure everyone can see and hear me, just wait for the presentation to be loaded. Right, that's great. Thank you. So yeah, this is a full application from the previous meeting for the demolition of an existing dwelling and its replacement with an active living centre that would provide 18 retirement apartments. And this is, as noted, in the village of Lynfoist. We'll just quickly run through the development and the plans from the previous meeting, just for the sake of clarity. So yeah, this is the existing site plan with the dwelling in the central position. This is the proposed site plan showing the L-shaped building that would replace it. Let's just move through these quickly. So these are the floor plans of the building proposed. There's some roadside elevations there. And that's from within the courtyard area. And there is the proposed gable end elevation. It's sort of an indicative sort of sketch proposal there, illustrative interpretation. And this is, it just shows the red lines and show a comparison with the original application. That's an existing view taken from outside the site, and that's with the imposed photo montage of the proposed building. And there's just some photographs here from the surrounding area taken from Myrtle Road, looking up towards the site in in the distance. That's a much more immediate view. That's taken from Gypsy Lane. So just quickly go through these photographs, just providing the context. Again, that's a view from the site outside. Yeah, okay. And that's the sort of a wider aerial view there with the application site sort of slightly off centre. So as I stated previously, the application was considered at the previous planning committee meeting held in October. The application was presented with a recommendation to approve. However, members voted that the application be refused. Since that meeting, the applicant has provided updated information in respect of ecology that has been subject to consultation with the council's in-house ecologist. Therefore, if members were minded to approve the application, the ecological matters could be managed through appropriate planning condition. However, following the resolution at the previous committee meeting, the application is presented with the following single reason for refusal. I'll just read that out verbatim. So, by virtue of its massing, excessive scale, design and prominent position, the proposed development would be detrimental to the appearance of the site and surrounding street scene, and would therefore result in an insensitive, intrusive and alien building which would fail to respect and assimilate with the form, scale, siting and materials of its setting. In addition, the proposed scheme would be harmful to the outlook and privacy of neighbouring occupiers in an area characterised by high standards of privacy and lower density development, and would restrict long views towards the Blaenhaven World Heritage Site. Consequently, the development would not be in accordance with policies S13, S17, DES 1, criteria B, C, D, E, and G, and L, EP1, LC2 of the Monmouthshire Local Development Plan. So, members, it's presented back to you with that detailed reason for refusal. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I have not got a hand in my chat bar, in my bar either. So the hand, I have just had it in the chat bar to say that the hand function is working on Teams. I do not have this function either. So I don't know how we're going to do a count on this for approval or take it as.
Chair, I think Democratic Services will put the hand in the chat bar. It's not on the taskbar, but it will come up in the it should come up in the chat bar, but there is no hand for people to signal.
Chair, if I could just come in there, we're having a few technical issues. We're working on that, but for the moment we were unable to put a speak now in the chat bar. Apologies for that.
Right, thank you, Richard. It is Councillor Howard, how do you wish to proceed? It's in your ward.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to Andrew for recapping the report. I accept the reasons for refusal and the amendment, and glad to see that there was some comeback on the biodiversity issue, but I'm mindful that I had an awful lot to say at the last committee meeting and don't want to rehash it again unless members want to hear it for a second time. The scale of it is enormous. That's the main reason for refusal, and so I would just move refusal as I did on the last occasion, and thank members for putting up with me.
I'll second that, Ruth. Maureen.
You're on mute, Chair.
It is so sensitive that I think we can take that as moved for refusable by Councillor Howard and seconded by Councillor Maureen Powell. So I think that concludes that application.
Roger Harris wants to speak.
Sorry, I've got messages in the chat bar now. Councillor Harris, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was one of the two members of the Planning Committee to disagree with the fact that we should turn down this proposal last time. I didn't say anything because after Giles' eloquent speech, I knew I was on hiding to nothing there. But to my mind, the arguments put forward by the planners are perfectly valid, and I see no reason, as I did last time, that we should not have agreed this this scheme. If you look at what's extant on there, there's hardly any difference between the amount of building on the site for this one we're just turning down as to the one before with the existing house and 4 other houses on there. You know, I think it's an exciting design, and I believe we should have approved it. But anyway, I will not be, once again, I will not be agreeing to turn this particular application down. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you indeed. I don't know if we need to do another vote on this, but I think it's a clear-cut decision has been made. So apart from, obviously, you can't agree with, not everybody's going to agree, but I can understand Councillor Harris taking his stance as well on this. But I think
Chair, we should vote.
So
yes, definitely.
So I think we will still go and do a vote to make it all clear exactly how things happened last committee meeting to this one. So can I ask for them to put it in the voting hands in the chat bar, please, Richard?
Apologies, Chair, we're having more technical issues. I'm unable to put a vote into the chat bar. We're working
Madam Chair, cannot Nicola call out the names and we say
that is what we'll go ahead, that is what we will do, Councillor Webb, if there is no other means of taking the vote. Thank you.
If you're happy with that, Chair, I will call the names out.
Thank you, Richard. Everybody make sure that you turn your microphone on to vote and immediately turn it off. Thank you.
Chair, can we make it clear that people have what people are voting for?
They're voting for a refusal of the application, as in Craig's report.
Are you happy for me to continue with that,
yes,
Chair?
Yes, go ahead, please, Richard.
Thank you.
So, Chair, you're voting for the recommendation then?
No.
No, we are it'll come in the bar as refusal or against refusal.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yes, Chair, this is for refusal. That's the recommendation of the report, I believe. The first person I have on my list is Councillor Becker. How do you wish to vote?
This is for approval, is it?
This is for refusal, Councillor.
For refusal. Okay, yeah, I vote for refusal. So.
Okay. Councillor Brown?
For refusal, please.
Thank you. Councillor Clark?
For refusal.
Councillor Davis? Councillor Davis? I'll move on to Councillor Dovey. Councillor Dovey, are you there? Councillor Dovey? I'll move on to Councillor Eason.
For refusal. Yeah, for refusal, I'm on.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
For refusal, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
For
refusal.
Yeah.
Councillor Feekins.
For refusal.
Councillor Harris.
Against refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Higginson.
For refusal.
Councillor Howard.
For refusal.
Councillor Murphy.
For refusal.
Councillor Powell.
For refusal.
Councillor Webb.
For refusal.
Councillor Woodhouse.
For refusal.
And I'll go back to Councillor Davis. How do you vote, Councillor Davis? Okay, how about Councillor Dovey? Are you there, Councillor Dovey?
For refusal.
Thank you. So it's just Councillor Davis now. Are you online, Councillor Davis?
He's in the chat bar.
For refusal. That's it, Chair. We've finished the vote.
Thank you. I expect Denzel will now do the vote and announce it, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I've made that there's 15 votes for refusal and 1 against refusal. So that motion has clearly passed and the application has been refused. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members, and thank you, Denzel, for that. We now go to the next application. This is again at Foist, DM/2019/020112. And I believe Amy is presenting this to committee.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Amy.
So this application, DM 2020-02012, is for the proposed development of 24 extra care homes, including access, car parking, landscaping, boundary treatments and means of enclosure. The application again was presented to committee on the 6th of October 2020 with the recommendation for refusal. Members did not accept this recommendation and deferred the application to be approved with the conditions which are set out fully in the officer's report. Again, for clarity, we'll just quickly recap the application. So the first slide plan you can see here is existing site plan. It shows the full extent of the proposed site, the existing residential development then to the south at the bottom of the site, and the existing fox hunters care home on the right. We can skip through. This shows a more detailed site plan of the proposals with 2 groups of units set around small courtyards and 6 units to the bottom there across the access road. We can move on. This shows the landscaping, so with a number of trees set within the site to soften the hard landscaping, and then a border of trees towards the north of the site adjacent to the access road and the roundabouts. This slide shows the green corridor which is proposed to the south of the site between the existing residential development and the proposed site. This is for information as it relates to part of the wider landscaping for the whole site, the original outline application. So if we move on, these slides show the proposed house types. There are bungalows here, 2-storey bungalows with 3 bedrooms, all set, all designed to be suitable for wheelchair access and disabled access. All of the units follow a similar design pattern and use the same materials. And the dormer bungalows, I think, are the last one. There we are. So we have a couple of 3D visual images here to show you the site plan as proposed. This is looking towards the site from the 2 main access roundabouts. You can see the fox hunters care home on the left and the existing residential development to the top of the slide, and the proposed green corridor at the back there as well. And this view is taken in the opposite direction with this green corridor at the bottom of the slide. A few more visualizations of the courtyards, central courtyards, with the idea that the units will be all centrally focused on some shared communal spaces. And again, the smaller courtyard. There's a photograph of the existing site. You can see it's quite flat, completely open at present, and the existing residential development towards the back and the mountains beyond. Again, similar viewpoint with the fox hunter care home on the left hand side. And again, looking towards the roundabout and the access to the site. So the application was deferred and approved to be approved with the conditions which are set out in the officer's report. Specifically, these conditions relate to a construction environmental management plan and a construction management plan to safeguard species and residential amenity throughout the development, together with information and mitigation in relation to greater crested newts. There are pre-commencement conditions proposed in relation to land contamination and any necessary remediation to be carried out, and then control over soil being brought into site, a detailed landscape plan, a green infrastructure management plan to ensure ongoing maintenance of the landscaping, and an updated noise survey to protect residential amenity. Specifically, condition 13 secures the use of the units within class C2, and the extra care accommodation hereby approved should be occupied by persons aged 55 or older, and shall be solely for the use of extra care accommodation in association with and as part of the existing care home currently known as the Fox Hunter. This is to ensure that the units are retained for their intended purposes. In addition, officers thought it was necessary to clarify the meaning of extra care. So the late correspondence then provides you with a definition, which I will read out for information. So we consider extra care or close care to be living in one's own home with one's own front door and the legal right to occupy the property. Domestic support and personal care are available on site. Emergency alarms and warden support are provided within the properties, as is access to communal facilities such as dining, day rooms. The accommodation can be in form of flats or bungalows built in the same site of a care home. Residents often have some services, such as cleaning, included in their service charge, and other services can be purchased from the care home. Extra care schemes can either be rented or purchased. Purchasers may receive a guarantee that the management will buy back the property if they enter the care home. In conclusion, following October's committee, the application is now presented with a recommendation for approval, subject to those conditions fully identified in the officer's report and just read out. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Amy. That was a good update on where we are with this, because it's last committee it was up for refusal, but we voted against it. So now we've had plenty of clarity on as to where we are now, and if it's not possible, I think Councillor Howard, if he wants to recap or if he wants to move the application. We do not have hands, I believe, or voting in the chat bar as of yet. So, Councillor Howard, do you wish to add to anything now?
No, thanks, Madam Chair. Happy with the suggested conditions and thanks for the report back. And I think the photographs showing the context of the site perhaps evidence really well why a residential use here is going to be more appropriate than industrial ones. But other members reflected on that last time. So, yeah, I'm just happy to move the approval. Thank you. And
do you have a seconder again, please, Councillor Howard?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. So that's been proposed and seconded. Could I have the vote, please, now? I expect Richard will now do it verbally.
Yes, Chair, we'll have to do it verbally again if you're happy with that.
Yes, fine. You carry on, Richard.
Thank you. Councillor Becker, how are you voting?
I vote approval.
Councillor Brown?
For approval.
Councillor Clark?
For approval.
Councillor Davis?
For approval.
Councillor Dovey? Councillor Dovey? We'll move on to Councillor Eason. Councillor Eason?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. For approval.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards?
For approval. Thank you.
Councillor Evans?
For approval.
Councillor Feekins?
For approval.
Councillor Harris?
For approval.
Councillor Higginson?
For approval.
Councillor Howard?
For approval.
Councillor Murphy?
For approval.
Councillor Powell?
For approval.
Councillor Webb?
For approval.
Councillor Woodhouse?
For approval.
And if we go back to Councillor Dovey?
For approval.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Votes in.
Thank you, Richard. That's obviously sounds to me like it's unanimous and nobody's abstained. So, Denzel, would you like to record the vote, please?
Yes, so I've also got that as a unanimous approval for that application. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you very much. It's been very remiss of me, but I did not read the instructions that I am supposed to read out at the beginning of the meeting. I think you get into some of this is almost remote. But apart from welcoming you all and the committee and so on, the meeting is being held in accordance with the emergency legislation and enables the council to hold this meeting remotely. I dare say we could well have people now live streaming that aren't up to speed with what we have to do now remotely, alongside the council constitution, and ensures that the council can continue to operate and make democratic decisions in an open and transparent way. I would like to remind members that this meeting is also being live streamed to the public, and can I request that you switch all cameras and mute your microphones, which is what we've already started doing when you are not speaking directly to committee, to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise. All sections of the members' code of conduct will still apply to members in this virtual meeting environment and are as applicable now as they are in any traditional meeting setting. Can I also remind members of the meeting to ensure that their chat functionality is switched on, and should they wish to speak on a particular item, to make the request clear in this area. And I will invite you to speak at the relevant point in the meeting, where you would then unmute your microphone and switch your camera back on. Decisions of this remote committee will hold the same weight as a decision of a normal planning committee, provided that the meeting remains quorate and meets its legislative requirements to make a decision, regardless of whether a member of this meeting is unable to cast their vote due to technical issues. And we do very often get technical issues, I must hasten to add. The decision of this committee will remain valid. And also, please, members, could you stay after we have concluded the committee meeting today, as Craig wishes to address the committee and give us some updates on the appeals and other issues as well that we need to be kept abreast of. And as you're all in attendance today, it's an opportune moment now for us to continue that after we have finished the actual committee meeting of applications. Thank you very much indeed. And now we will continue to the third application of the day. And this is application 00623, and this is at Langerview-esque. And I believe, Phil, you're presenting this. Sorry to have held you up there. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'll just share my screen. Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the application DM 2020-623. It's an application for use of the site at Llangerview, Upper Mardy Farm, Llangerview. So it's to actually vary conditions attached to a previous grant of permission. So if I can go back and outline what's occurred, and then we'll run through the photos and plans. So an application for use of the site as a permanent base for an extended Romany Gypsy family was allowed on appeal in 2011. This allowed 2 pictures by the entrance to the site. In allowing the appeal, the inspector agreed that the use of the site should be limited to the appellants only and not extended to all gypsies and travellers. However, in 2016, planning permission under DC 2015-01424 was also granted on appeal for a further 5 pitches, subject to conditions. And that approval was not limited to the appellants only, but was subject to a more generic condition that ensured the site could be occupied only by gypsy or traveller families that met the definition in the Welsh Government circular on this matter. So the current application seeks to amend the layout, the siting of the caravans and utility day rooms, and the landscaping on plots 1, 2 and 3 of the 5 caravans latterly approved, in order to improve the welfare facilities for the residents. And these proposed changes therefore affect conditions 5, 6 and 12 of the appeal decision 2015-01424, and the changes agreed in a 2019 non-material amendment. So I'll just quickly run through the photos before I go into some of the detail about the changes in the plots, in the sizes of the day rooms, etc. So that's a view looking towards the A449 at the bottom end of the plot, with a that's in fact really where plots 4 and 5 will go, which aren't actually the subject of this particular proposal. And then that's looking back again where plots 4 and 5 would be. So behind the hedge is where the dual carriageway is. That's looking back. So the dual carriageway is over to the left-hand side there. And this is looking to where, on the right-hand side of the photo, nearer where the car is, where plots 1, 2 and 3 would go, which is where the current proposal is concerned. That's looking back more towards the entrance of the plot, looking down towards the bottom end of the field, where the 5 plots will go. And then that's looking at the top end of the plot, where the 2 original plots were first allowed on appeal back in 2011. That's put in the site in context. You can see it's near the slip road where the A449 joins the A472. So it's a major intersection of two A roads, one of which is a dual carriageway, as we all know. And the right-hand side shows the photograph showing in the bottom part of the photograph where the 2 plots were have been stationed, and then that neck of land, narrow neck of land leading to where it widens out, where the 5 will go nearer the dual carriageway. So that's putting it in context. So plots 4 and 5, no change at the bottom end nearer the dual carriageway, and plots 1, 2 and 3 are subject to this variation in terms of the size of the plots and the layout of the caravans and the size of the utility areas on the actual plots themselves, pictures themselves. And then plot 6 and 7, which were the original ones, perhaps they should be called 1 and 2 really. They were the original pictures, and they're not changing at all. So that's the proposed utility day room for plots 1 and 2. You can see it's an L shape. And I'll run through the dimensions in a moment. That's the layout of them. So you can see it's got a kitchen, day room, so where there would be settees, etc., and dining facilities where they would spend the day, you know, watching TV, whatever, leisure purposes, with a bathroom that's suitable for a disabled person and a treatment room, because 2 of the residents, 1 on each plot, 1 and 2, have medical needs, which mean they need medical treatment facilities within each day room. That's the day room for plot 3. That's enlarged from the originally approved scheme, and the scheme approved under the non-material amendment, which enlarged it again. But this is what they actually want to build, and now have indeed built that on site. So this is in effect a retention of in terms of plot 3. So that again shows a slightly smaller building, again with a day room and kitchen. There's no treatment room, as you'll notice, because there's no need for that for plot 3, and a bathroom that again is suitable for a disabled person to use. So future-proof in the building for future needs. That's the utility for plot 3, which is the plan you just saw being built on site. And that shows it, the originally approved layout for plots 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 on that bottom end. So there would have been a semi-detached utility room for plots 1 and 2 and a separate utility for plot 3. So those are subject to change. They were very small, and as I'll go into, they were under the size that is recommended in the Welsh Government circular, Welsh Government guidance rather. That was what was approved under the non-material amendment for plot 3 to make it bigger. So the current scheme is to enlarge it slightly again on top of that approval there. And that shows the sort of original approved layout and landscaping. And this shows the revised landscaping that is proposed now under the current proposed layout. And that shows the green infrastructure that's proposed, planting, lots of planting by the A449, as you can see, to go in once the pitches are occupied by the 5 plots. So the current application seeks to amend the layout, the siting of the caravans, as said. It's proposed to increase the size of the day rooms for plots 1, 2 and 3. The size of the approved day rooms for plots 1 and 2 was originally 3.3 metres by 4.9 metres, giving a total floor area of just over 16 square metres. This size does not meet the minimum size recommended in the Welsh Government guidance designing gypsy and traveller sites, which is a minimum size of 23 square metres recommended. It is now proposed that plots 1 and 2 have L-shaped single-storey day and treatment rooms measuring a maximum of 11.4 metres by 7.2 metres. So because they're L-shaped, that would give a floor area of 64, just over 64 square metres. So internally, the proposed building would have a bespoke day room with kitchen and utility facilities, a bathroom and separate medical room, as you saw in the plans. The treatment area is an area of some 12.5 square metres. The additional space is required, as I said, for the specific medical needs of the applicants on plots 1 and 2. Approval for the increase of the day room for plot 3 is proposed to be 8.3 metres by 5.2. Sorry, that was previously approved to be 8 metres by 5 metres in the NMA non-material amendment back in 2019. So this is under construction, albeit in the size that they're now applying for. The current proposal includes a further increase in size to 9.1 metres by 66.2 metres to give 56.4 square metres for plot 3. So slightly smaller than the other L-shaped ones on plots 1 and 2, as it doesn't include a treatment room for those occupiers. It's important to note there's an unauthorised outbuilding being constructed on the site that's nearer the A449. It looks like a timber outbuilding, but this does not form part of the current application, being in the area where plots 4 and 5 are, and the suitability of this structure is being considered under a separate application. This is subject to a separate enforcement case, so that shouldn't enter into the consideration of this particular planning application. The current application is only concerned with increasing the size of the day rooms and the altered layout of the site for the 3 of the approved 7 plots, as I've said, 1, 2 and 3. The principle has already been established. The size of the proposed day rooms is above the minimum standard recommended in the aforementioned Welsh Government guidance, but plots 1 and 2, as I've said, include treatment rooms required to support the applicant's medical health. Medical information has been provided to substantiate that, but of course won't be shared for personal reasons with committee in this public forum. The size and internal layout of the utility day room on plot 3 is commonly accepted on gypsy sites. And paragraph 3.44 of the Welsh Government guidance advises that the prospective occupiers of a site may determine the final details of amenity blocks, which might include different sized rooms or have particular needs which require adaptations. The illustrations of utility blocks in the appendix of the guidance show a typical utility building of around 5.5 metres wide by 9 to 9.5 metres long, albeit without a treatment room. So this is broadly comparable with that proposed, particularly on plot 3. And that I would hasten to add, that's not a maximum type size, it's a typical size that the Welsh Government have provided for guidance. The utility blocks for all plots therefore have been designed to meet the current and future requirements of the applicants. It is intended that the applicants sleep in their static caravans, which will be 1 per plot. They will use the day rooms for cooking, dining, washing, leisure purposes and medical treatment. The proposals only relate to an increase in size and not an increase in the number of pitches, and the guidance supports the need to provide suitable accommodation for the occupants. And evidence has been provided in this respect. The consideration is therefore the visual impact on the surrounding environment of the enlarged buildings. The impact of the development in the landscape was considered acceptable by the appeal inspector, referring to the context of the site at the A449, A472 interchange, concluding that the overall harm to character and appearance will be modest and localised. It is not considered that the proposed increase in size conflicts with this assessment. Plots 1 and 2 would have the L-shaped day rooms, which should have the appearance of a modern bungalow, and plot 3 also appears as a modern bungalow. This style of building is encouraged by the guidance, Welsh Government guidance, which sets out that detached or semi-detached design should be appropriate. Having a residential appearance will enhance the look of the pitch and the general aesthetic of the site. So there would be blue-grey slate-like tiles on the roofs, and external walls would be of smooth painted render. And the structure is a single story, being 4 meters in height to the ridge, and as such are not visually prominent when viewed in the wider landscape, especially as the site is surrounded by mature hedgerows. And indeed, there is landscaping, as you can see in the drawing there, to supplement the existing landscaping, and that will be, that's already been secured by condition in relation to the previous permission, which has been discharged. But the current permission, current application seeks to ensure that that is implemented prior to occupation of the pitches. So therefore, the overall change is considered acceptable and conforms to the objectives of policy DES1 of the LDP. In terms of amenity, residential amenity, the day rooms are about 170 meters from the nearest neighbouring dwelling, the use, and it's considered that the increase in the size of the day rooms will have no impact on residential amenity of the occupiers of the use, given the distance between them and intervening boundary treatments as well. There'll be no loss of privacy or overbearing impact as a result of the alterations proposed, and therefore it's compliant with LDP policy. So to conclude, we'd recommend approval for this proposal, subject to the amendment to condition 6 in late correspondence to make that condition enforceable. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very detailed description of that application, Phil. I believe, is it Councillor Clark? Is this in your ward?
Yeah, yes, it is, Chairman. Can I come in at the end, please?
Yes, certainly. I thought that maybe that is what you would like to do. So anybody else wish now to comment on the application, please? Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify. I understand that the decision on this is mainly due to appeal in terms of planning, but the applications themselves that were mentioned were after 2008, and I just wondered why there wasn't a condition on the informative to say that there should be licensing considered on the caravans as well, because if they're static caravans or model caravans, they come under the model standard conditions 2008 for Wales. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask the officer if they can update on that, please. Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Yeah.
Phil?
Sorry, yeah, just getting more.
Right, please be patient, and technology will happen in a moment.
Yeah, I mean, those appeals were allowed on those decisions were allowed on appeal. It's up to the inspector really what conditions and informatives they attach. So in some ways we're asking the wrong people. They were at liberty, I suppose, to set out informatives about site licensing, but it's at the whim of the inspector really as to whether they think that's appropriate or a given really, in that the applicants should be aware that they have site licensing obligations outside of the planning process. So some inspectors won't actually set out informatives which they think the applicants have a sort of duty of care to understand themselves in terms of the requirements of other legislation. You certainly couldn't condition that anyway, because you can't condition that other legislation is complied with. That would be ultra vires and wouldn't meet the tests in the circular. So I mean, it's a matter for the inspector really as to whether they applied the informative or not. We would do it as a matter of good practice and duty of care to the applicant, but that's not necessarily the case if an inspector's dealing with that issue.
Right, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, can I just come back on that, because my understanding is that the appeal is to do with planning laws and regulations, and obviously, as I've been told, licensing is a separate legal matter. So I don't see why an informative can't actually go on it in terms of the caravan sites, because obviously that's a different type of legislation, and it was made apparent that these two are separated. So I can't see why an informative can't actually go on it. But I think it might be worth asking the legal section what they think. Thank you.
Sorry if I misunderstood it, Councillor Brown. I thought you were talking about the appeal decisions. You're talking about the current application, are you?
What I'm talking about is that basically there's a number of conditions at the end of this application, including about static caravans. I presume there's no touring caravans, but you know, because of that, there are you know, standard model conditions that are applicable, and I don't see why an informative can't be added to this application in relation to it. So it's just something that I'd like, you know, the legal section to give advice on, because I understood that there were two separate issues, you know, because the legal side on the appeal was to do with planning law. It wasn't to do with anything else. And the inspector's decision is to do with planning law and nothing else. So you can put informatives to advise people about certain other things that they've got to comply with, like SUDs or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I think Phil will get back to you now in a moment, or Craig, that can give you clarity on this about the licensing. Also, Denzel is with us here today, so maybe he can inform us also. Could you please be patient, Councillor Brown, and I'll get back to you in a moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's fine. I mean, we can add an informative that the requirements for a site license would need to be met. If that answers Councillor Brown's concerns.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just dealing with applications in the same sort of way. That's all. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Brown, for raising that issue. And I'm sure that the officers will make sure that that informative is attached to that application. Anybody else wish to speak or comment? Councillor Easton?
No, I haven't asked to speak, no.
Oh, you're on the screen, so I thought maybe you were. I
shouldn't be. It's on. The screen's off as far as I'm concerned.
Right, Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Chairman. As you say, this site is in my ward, and it's been in my ward ever since it first came to conception 10 or 12 years ago. My concern about this, I appreciate that the principle is established, and obviously most of these units are complying with the conditions that we've originally set. On the top of page 60, if anybody's following this on the minutes, Philip will appreciate that the dimensions given on plots 1 and 2, where it says the treatment rooms measure 12 by 8 with a total of 96 square metres, is incorrect. They measure 12 by 5, which makes them 60 square metres, and then the additional 12.5 square metres for the treatment room goes on the top, which gives a total area for each of these units of 72.5 square metres. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was looking at the same scale of things that I am. The Community Council, which is Lantricent Community Council, covers this plot, and we've had a submission from them, and they object to this on the scale and massing of these 3 units. We're only considering plots 1 and 2, although 3 is detailed in the drawings and the correspondence, but we are today only looking at plots 1 and 2. And they are pointing out that they are considerably larger than the units originally given permission for, because of these medical requirements of 2 of the applicants, and we all understand that. If one, as the winter has come on, as we've been going down the road onto the A449, either in the early morning or at night, the plot 3, which is currently under construction, is lit like something from Blackpool. And I've asked our officers to look at this. If all of the 7 units on this site were to light themselves in the same way, it would be, well, to be honest, it would be dangerous, because as you come down the slip road onto the main dual carriageway, the last thing you want is a whole blaze of lights. And the screening, which is part of this permission on the roadside opposite on the other side of the dual carriageway, has been removed. So currently we've got no sheltering or cover of screening from these units as they're built. So I've asked officers to look at that. Otherwise, I can't personally approve it because I'm also, like the local community council, I'm concerned about the massing. But I appreciate that as it's an existing site, then basically it'll have to be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clark. Yes, I well understand driving at night and you have got those lights coming towards you. It almost looks like a small hamlet or something that's there now. So I should imagine that low scale lighting at a low level should be appropriate on that site. Anybody else wish to comment, please?
Could I just, sorry, Chair.
Madam Chair, I got my hand raised.
I've
got mine raised as well.
Councillor Davis, please.
Yes, I'd like to move approval of the application, please, Madam Chair.
Could you repeat that, please, Councillor Davis?
I would like to move approval of the application, please, Madam Chair.
Right, thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Harris, you wish to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was only to say about the light intrusion onto the dual carriageway. If it was that severe, then I'm sure the Highways Agency would have something to say about it, or should have something to say about it. While we're on it, Councillor Davis has moved approval. I'm happy to second.
Right, thank you. Anybody else wish to comment before I go to the vote?
Can I just be clear that the informative is added on that, please?
Yes, definitely that will be. I believe somebody's got a microphone on because it's echoing very badly. Right, Richard, that's better. Richard, Phil. It's been approved by move for approval by Councillor Alan Davis and seconded by Councillor Harris. So, Richard, are you going to do the vote again verbally?
Yes, Chair, I'm ready to do that if you're happy for me to call the names out.
Yes, thank you, Richard. You carry on.
Okay, I'll start with Councillor Becker. How are you voting?
Vote for approval, please.
Councillor Brown?
Abstain.
Councillor Clark?
Against.
Councillor Davis?
For approval.
Councillor Dovey? Councillor Dovey? Okay, we'll move on to Councillor Eason.
Right, support approval.
Councillor Edwards?
I will abstain. Thank you.
Councillor Evans?
For approval.
Councillor Feakins?
Approve.
Councillor Harris?
Sorry, approve.
Councillor Higginson? Councillor Higginson?
Sorry, I approve.
Thank you. Councillor Howard?
Approve.
Councillor Murphy?
For approval.
Councillor Powell?
Approve. For approval.
Councillor Webb? Councillor Webb?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Woodhouse?
For approval.
So if we just go back to Councillor Dovey?
For.
Thank you. That's the vote, Chair.
Thank you very much for doing that, Richard.
You
And
don't need the microphone, Chair.
sorry, Councillor Dovey.
We don't need the microphone. It's a bit intermittent. Just shout down the back corridors of bar.
Thank you, Councillor Dovey. Denza will now give the result of the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So there were 13 votes for approval, 2 abstentions and 1 refusal. So that motion has been approved.
Thank you very much indeed, Denzel. That has taken account of all the applications in front of us today. But I do ask that all members stay now to, I don't know if you need to do it live streaming now for any of this now. So that will be switched off and this will just be in committee. So everybody out there, please keep safe and abide by all the rules that we are given. Thank you
Chair,
very much indeed for your
excuse me.
attendance. Thank you, Richard.
Excuse me, Chair, I believe this is part of the agenda, so it's still being live streamed.
Right. Oh, thank you, Richard, to update me on that. So this is 5.1 on the agenda, and this is an appeal decision at land at Myrtle Cottage. Do you wish to take that, Andrew? Thank you, Andrew. Sorry about that. We're closing down too soon today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So, yeah, this is a vote is for it's a property called Myrtle Cottage in Caerwent. It's within the Roman walls in Caerwent, however, it's outside of the development boundary. So permission was sought the proposal was for a conversion extension of a double garage to a detached bungalow. The garage was granted planning permission in 2013, I believe, but it's still under construction. There was a previous appeal on the site in 2015 for a new dwelling that was dismissed, and this appeal was also dismissed. The reasons being it was considered to be new housing within the open countryside outside the development boundary. It was development within the Roman walls of Caerwent. And also it failed to preserve or enhance the Caerwent conservation area. So, so the inspector agreed with officer's decision to refuse planning permission. So apologies, I haven't got any plans to show you, but that's the sort of summary of the issues and the support that was given to the officer's decision.
You are mute, Chair.
Yeah, sorry, on mute again. It's on and off all the time today. Thank you, Andrew, for that explanation. As I say, a lot of members are well seeing this application and will understand the reasonings why that decision has been made by the inspector. So that is now off our agenda, I believe. So Andrew will now switch off the live streaming. But as I say, appeals. Do you want to do the appeals? Or are we going to do separately?
Hi, Chair. If we could just switch off the live and just have an informal chat with Planning Committee in regards to an appeals workshop, that'd be really useful. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's what I was intending to do, as I highlighted earlier, that all members still stay tuned in, but live streaming will have finished. So thank you again for that. I'm looking at 2